So today I'm going to talk to you about a few different issues that we're seeing at the moment. There was a really great blog post yesterday from Sam Potts from Columbia, who discussed that in his label meetings and planning meetings that artists and management and labels are now coming and saying to them, why did we not end up in New Music Friday? Why are we not in UK hipster party playlist? And it's becoming a really, really key thing for labels wanting to achieve maximum exposure. But what we're also seeing is that labels are expecting placement in a New Music Friday playlist, whether that's on Spotify or Deezer or Apple Music, to be the answer to everything. The thing is that there's an expectation that that will break an artist, but it very rarely breaks an artist. In fact, it very rarely breaks a track itself. And that's because most of those tracks that go into those playlists, there's no core marketing techniques running alongside it. Without those core marketing techniques, there really isn't going to be much traction for that track happening on the streaming platform. And then secondly, I'm going to talk about a technique that we used, a playlist campaign that we ran that just brought fans into the streaming ecosystem, promoted back catalogue on the platform as well for one of our artists. So, these are the two artists that I'm going to be comparing. They're both Irish singer-songwriters. One, Kieran Laverty, that we just started working with. His last album was in 2013. There was no profile development or planning that went on at that stage. He's a self-released artist, but at some point he got picked up by Spotify's editors and was placed at the top of loads of really big mood and genre-based playlists. So a lot of acoustic singer-songwriter ones, like Coffee House, and it resulted in millions of streams for him as an artist. And then on the other hand, we've got Gavin James, who is a fairly new artist in the rest of the world. He's had some success in Ireland, but we've got his debut album coming in 2016. And then we had a really quiet 2015 while we were in the planning stages for Gavin. And then it picked up Q3, Q4 with a marketing plan. So this is the chart that I find really interesting. Both artists started at this point here with 35,000 daily listeners on Spotify, and I think daily listeners is a really important metric for us here. But you can see that first part of the year, this is from March 20th. This is Gavin involved here, had no promotion activity while he was away recording his album, while we were setting up strategy and campaign for him. There was absolutely nothing going on, so you can see his daily listen number absolutely dropping away. Whereas Kieran Laverty, you can see on that first black dot, that's about the point where he got added to some of the really key playlists on Spotify. And that does grow a little bit, but that growth is in line with the playlist growth. So rather than actually fans being fans of Kieran, that's growing with the number of people that are following My Coffee Playhouse or something, My Coffee Playlist or something like that. And then the second black dot is the release of Gavin's single Bitter Pill, which we campaigned to get in New Music Friday playlist, in a lot of genre playlists globally, and we were really successful in doing that. But as you can see, that drops away straight away. As soon as it goes out of those playlists, the daily listener number drops away. But then here, as the promo activity is happening, Gavin's daily listeners number is growing organically. There's people interested in what he's doing. Whereas Kieran, it just kind of stays on an even keel. And then the final point that we see, the second to last black dot, is when Gavin James was announced as one of Spotify's spotlight artists for the year in France, UK, Asia, a couple of other territories. So that provided a spike, which was lovely. And then the final black dot is the Christmas slump, which we saw across all of our artists. So, that's just to explain what that was. End result was that both artists ended up at the end of this period with 55,000 daily listeners. Fantastic. So that's two separate routes, two different strategies for achieving the same result. Yeah? No, not quite, because if we look at the actual fans on the platform, the actual people that have clicked follow or save the music to their own music collections, Kieran Laverty has completely stayed static. He's grown from maybe, I think it was 45,000 to 50,000 by the end of that period. Because he's in those big key playlists and there was no marketing activity running alongside his features in those playlists. They weren't taking advantage of it. His profiles weren't set up. Whereas Gavin, you can see exponential growth in his fan follower numbers over that period. So really, that kind of just shows that without the kind of core marketing techniques as part of your campaign, it's not going to do anything. Again, just a reflection of how that looked on the tracks. These are two of Kieran's EPs. The tracks in bold are the ones that are included in playlists. You can see that they're up into the millions. But the other tracks in his back catalogue, barely touching sort of the 20 to 60,000 mark. So really, really poor performance across all of those because we just weren't utilising his profile on the platforms. So my argument is, playlists don't always create lasting, engaged fans. More often than not, they create fans of the playlist themselves, which is why you often see that playlists will not change tracks too often, especially on the mood and genre-based playlists. So when you are put into New Music Friday, or you've got a campaign coming up, you're pitching for New Music Friday or Coffee House playlist, make sure everything's set up and optimised to take advantage of that when it does happen. Because if it doesn't, it's just going to fall away and it's going to account for nothing. So, just to close out, I've got a quick example of how we use playlists at Believe in a creative way. This was for Asian Dub Foundation, who hadn't had an album come out in a few years, and they wanted to do something that would bring their older fan base into Spotify and also help existing users on Spotify who may not be fans discover their catalogue. I had zero budget, I just had to come up with it, and come up with something that would be interesting, but luckily the band were really helpful. They provided me with some assets. They were happy to record interviews, like stuff that was going on behind the scenes in the recording studio, remixes, live performances, that sort of thing. So what they did is, we used the theme of the album, which was More Signal, More Noise, and we converted it into Break the Signal. And the band provided me with 7 pieces of white noise, radio static chants that we put into a playlist, delivered it as, I think the artist name here was ADF Noise, so it would appear on the discography profile. And we encourage fans to follow, share and listen. We track those metrics. We tracked certain targets of when fans had shared a certain amount, or they followed a certain amount, or they listened a certain amount. And as we hit those targets, it would unlock the content in that playlist, so eventually replacing the white noise and the chants and the static with exclusive content for the platform. So the key things really were the self-annotated playlist, had links and descriptions that were telling fans what to do, calls to action. There was a link out to a service that we've used called Click to Tweet, which auto-filled a tweet for the user, gave a hashtag so we could track the number of shares on that, so we could track when the targets were being hit. And that just meant that it was up to the fans to kind of work together and be engaged. And eventually, once the fans had kind of, as it was coming towards album release, they'd work together, all of the noise signal tracks were replaced with exclusive content. So I think it took about 3 weeks for them to unlock everything. That's just an example, so we kept fans updated as we were going along the campaign. Congratulating fans on unlocking the next stage. And then, it's the same. And then, because of the creative nature of it, we took it to Spotify and asked them to get involved, and they were really, really interested in it because it was something new that hadn't really been done before. So they gave it support in a whole bunch of territories where Asian Dub Foundation hadn't really had a fan base previous to that. So it got shared in the US, in Germany, in Italy, in France, and it really helped us reach a new fan base for them in some of those territories. And then previously, I know that Spotify has stopped this now, but the notification system was the really, really key thing to this. So because we were constantly updating the playlist, unlocking tracks, fans were getting notified normally on a daily basis that something was being updated about the playlist or there was something going on with the album. But now I think Spotify turned off notifications for anything that's not a new release for an artist that you follow. So unfortunately that's slightly broken, but it did work really well when it was around. So hope that they bring that back. But that was just a really good, cheap, basic way of us kind of utilising something on the platform to engage fans and bring new fans in and help them discover back catalogue. So that's it for me. Is there any questions?
How easy did you find it uploading kind of exclusive content to Spotify? I've tried to do similar things before where we put together radio shows, for example, platform specific, but it ends up being a complete nightmare because got to upload it to the platform like with any piece of music, and I just found Spotify really cooperative in helping us do that. And I don't know whether they've got plans to maybe start looking to help labels put out kind of platform-specific content. But I just wondered how you think it was for you.
Yeah, I mean, we're lucky because we're a digital distributor, so we kind of have the tools and a really good, I mean, this is going a bit salesy now, which I didn't want to do, but the back end of our system, I believe, is great. We can set, you know, if we make an album product available, we can set individual tracks to be available on particular days, so they'll just unlock automatically. And that all happens just as part of our tech on the system. So, you know, go and maybe speak to your distributors, see if they've got options available. Spotify themselves probably wouldn't make that available unless it's a really, really big campaign. But there are other tools out there that you can do. Yeah.
You were saying that just getting a playlist doesn't grow follows, and you have to like be prepared and have everything kind of efficient. Do you want to highlight some of those things that you say you have to have right to make sure that that translates to follows?
Yeah, I mean, just the basic stuff of having, say, like, I always think that there's two key playlists everyone should have, a discography playlist and some kind of hook as well to get people in, whether that's, you know, well, this is stuff I'm listening to on tour, this is stuff we're doing in the studio. I mean, when we first started that campaign, when we looked at Kieran's profile, it didn't even have a header or an artist image, it was just one of his album covers as one of the avatars on there. So it was really poorly put together, wasn't verified. So just the core basics. If you visit Spotify's Artist Hub, there's like kind of endless amounts of really, really good information and resources on there that, I mean, I know you guys use it a whole bunch. Like there's some really, really cracking stuff on there. And they give the tools to artists because they don't have, you know, they're not a traditional store, they're not on iTunes, they don't have merchandising. There's very little in the way that they can support a release. It's down to you guys to really use the tools that are out there to make the most of it and really push your streams and put yourselves in a good position when they do feature you in those playlists.
Did those ADF fans like actually the campaign itself? Because they were forced to click and to like and to share, and all their friends would see it, of course. It seems a little bit needy.
Yeah.
I personally myself never fall for such campaigns, and they're always sort of annoying me.
Yep.
Did you get any feedback on that?
I mean, we didn't have any particular feedback on it. You know, obviously you'll get the voices that will say, well, I don't use Twitter, how can I get involved? But normally if people don't like the campaign, then they just won't get involved, they won't say anything about it. You know, you'll get one or two spiky voices come out. But by and large, people, you know, appreciate the fact that it was something that brought the community together, made them feel involved. It was them that was responsible for the campaign rather than just a label deciding what was plastered in front of them, rather than just being sold something like they're normally sold on Twitter or Facebook.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.